we are going to alternate, so you can, do the slides then on video or so. Good morning, everyone. We're going to kind of, we're a small group, we're going to be informal and kind of introduce ourselves. My name is Mack. I'm the Assistant Director of the Student Academic Resource Center at University of Central Florida. And with me is
Kristen Horton. I currently coordinate our supplemental instruction program at the University of Central Florida.
Okay. And we're here to kind of give an overview of our supplemental instruction program, which has a long history. It has been going on for many years, and it has experienced tremendous growth and changes. So we're here to talk about that. And Kristen, coming as a new coordinator, has seen the new expansion of the program, and because of the growth, changes in the way the program is managed. The SI leaders are trained and evaluated, had to be implemented, and hopefully what I hope is that this is something that might be an experience for someone who's establishing a new SI program, or maybe has an SI program and is thinking about expanding it or increasing it. There's so much to talk about within SI. There's the funding aspect, there's the assessment, but hopefully this is more of a big picture. And then from there, if you have any questions, we'll take that. Make sure that there's some time for doing that. Okay. All right, so we'll start with an overview of UCF. Some facts about UCF. We're right now the second largest university in the country. As of last fall, we were slightly over 60,000 students. We have 10 regional campuses. We're a doctoral research-intensive university. We have over 52,000 undergraduates. That's our enrollment, representing 63 Florida counties in 50 states and in 152 countries. We are very proud of our retention rate. In spite of being large, we have very good programs, and we are very intentional with our incoming freshmen, making sure that they're successful from the very start, the time that they set foot on campus. Our retention rate is 87.5%, a little bit higher than the national average. And those are our top 5 entering majors. Those are the programs that typically we're known for. We have more and more students coming to Central Florida to enroll in programs. A little bit about our Learning Center. Our Learning Center is SARC, the Student Academic Resource Center. And these are our services. We have peer tutoring on 3 different campus locations. We have a supplemental instruction program, which we will talk about today. We have one-on-one learning skills consultations where students have the opportunity to meet with a learning specialist one-on-one to discuss their academic strategy and a plan for success. We have every semester academic success workshops, and we do a lot of outreach to classes, residence halls, and per request on study skills, different presentations on campus and our services as well. We have a summer bridge program. That's what we mean by access programs. Students that are conditionally admitted, we provide the academic support for them in partnership with the advising offices and other offices on campus. And we have an online academic support which we started more recently in 2012, and that we're in the process of expanding. OPAL, Online Peer Assisted Learning, is right now in addition to supplemental instruction, basically SI leaders replace one of their face-to-face sessions with an online session, and that is our OPAL. And we have an online presence and a website that is alternate to our regular program or departmental website called Sargon Online, where we host all of our online resources. And this is mostly geared to those students who are not on campus or who are fully online. They can get all of our resources there. Some of our academic success workshops are live streamed. Some of our, for example, final review sessions are live streamed, so they don't have to be on campus to have access to those services. Okay. A little bit about our staff. We are a staff of 5 professionals, 4 graduate assistants, and 103 student staff, combining tutors, SI leaders, student assistants, peer mentors. We couldn't do what we do with our student staff, so as we can see, we rely heavily on them. Just a little bit about what the traffic in our learning center last academic year. We had a little bit over 92,000 student contacts through all of our major services. So that's the kind of student traffic and visits that we're getting. I'm going to start giving you a little bit about the history of SI at UCF. We started in 1996, and when SI started, it started with just 2 courses. I think one of them was chemistry and the other one was economics. So it started very small as a pilot program, and then from then it grew, it increased, sessions were added, faculty were started becoming more and more convinced this is something that they wanted to be part of, and it grew to mostly STEM courses, because those were the courses that had the high risk courses, high DFW rates. So mostly STEM courses. Right now, our program is all STEM. All of the courses are STEM. By spring 2010, we had 26 course sections enrolling about 3,000 students. We had 18 SI leaders and 2 mentors, so that was our staff. The traffic in the academic year 2009-2010 was 1,850 SI sessions offered, with over 29,000 visits. So that's what the program looked like then. But then something happened. We tripled our program. What happened was we applied for a funding with undergraduate studies, the Division of Undergraduate Studies. They have some funds one year that they provided to increase retention in STEM. And because we collect data on student success and how successful the program is in terms of academic success and retention, we put together a good proposal. And we received a 3-year funding for this called the Project A+ Undergraduate Education Pilot Project. So for 3 years, 2010 to 2013, we were able to triple the program. And the goal was to support STEM courses and to increase success in STEM. So these were the colleges that participated. The new departments and colleges that we added we already had at the College of Medicine some courses, but the new ones were mathematics and engineering and computer science, those 2 colleges. What happened with the other departments is that we were supporting them, but not every section of the course. For example, if there were 4 organic chemistry 1 sections, we only supported 1. This time now we can support 4 sections taught by different instructors. So if you understand that SI is targeted to courses taught by instructors, that means 4 SI leaders that we needed. So before we couldn't afford 4 SI leaders, now we can. So that's how we were able to increase. Okay. What happened with that was I don't know if you can go to the previews. After year 3, of course, the funding ended, but we were able to continue the funding through our division, not maybe at the full extent that we had the funding before, through our division. And with the College of Engineering and Computer Science, they're now supporting a portion of our supplemental instruction for their engineering and computer science courses. So that funding is there. So that's good. So with the growth, we said, well, I already mentioned, the SI sessions roughly tripled, and the student contacts as well. Each semester now we went from 22, 24, 26 to 64, 66 course sections supported, and the course sections with 58,000 students. And in 2013, 2014, the last academic year, we had over 46, close to 47,000 student contacts. The student staff, of course, with tripling the program means that now instead of 18, we have close to 50 or 52 SI leaders. As you know, when we had more SI leaders, we need more supervision. And before we only had one coordinator supervising and 2 mentors helping with the SI session observations and training. Now we needed to expand that, so we added 2 graduate assistants to that. We increased the number of mentors to 5. I think we currently have 5. Sometimes we have 4 depending on the semester. And so we have 5 mentors that can assist with, so to make sure that we can observe them all and evaluate them. And also to assist with the training. We always had the research assistant position, which is an undergraduate student position, but we increased the hour. We went from 8 to 15 hours because of the volume of what they do now. They assist with rosters, attendance, classroom reservations, data analysis, project, our reports, and so forth. So, increasing student staff. A little bit about the SI impact before I turn it to Kristen. Kristen is going to give you a little bit more of what, how currently we're managing the program in terms of evaluation, training, and so forth, and supervision of the SI users. But we always assess the impact of SI, of course, and this is what has helped us grow. Just last fall, and this is typical for every semester, when we compare regular, the group of those who attended regularly SI versus those who did not, that were enrolled in the same in those classes, we always find that that group has, as an average, higher mean grades, and also a higher percentage of A, Bs, and Cs, and a lower percentage of Ds, Fs, and W than those who do not participate. These results, when we do the statistical significant analysis, are typically significant. In terms of retention, we have done those studies as well, and we have looked at cohorts of those students who are enrolled in courses with SI that have a STEM major, because some students that attend SI are not STEM major, but then they have to take a STEM course as a general requirement, for example, statistics. But we only looked at those who have a STEM major, and we wanted to see if the attending SI frequently helped retention in their major, if they were still in their major. And we have, this is the 3rd year or 4th year that we're doing this analysis, and the last cohort, we found that regular SI participants were retained in their STEM major at higher rates than those who did not participate in SI. So we do find that impact. In terms of first-year students are also retained at higher rates. 94.2%, I thought was pretty high, than those than FTICs who did not participate in SI but could have participated. Transfer students is a large population now on our campus. We attract a lot of students from the surrounding community colleges or colleges around the area, and we found that they also many of them come with an AA in computer science, and an AA in computer science means that they have not taken one computer science course. Or engineering, maybe they've taken math, but they have not taken statics or dynamics, or so when they start that, they have SI. So they're in that group. So transfer students who, when we looked at them, they also graduated, have higher graduation rates than those who don't participate. So again, this is a correlation type of, we can't say that SI is the only, we know that they're highly motivated, we know that there are other factors affecting these results, but we do look at SAT scores, and we always, when we compare these two groups, especially with the student success, we see that SI attendees typically have lower, as an average, lower SATs, or the difference between the SI group and the non-SI group in terms of SAT scores is not significant. So we can't say that the SI group was more successful because of preparation. So that's something that we always control for. Okay. All right. Well, at this point, I'm going to turn it into Kristen. She's going to talk a little bit more about the management of the SI program.
So I'm currently the coordinator of our supplemental instruction program at UCF. I've been there for not quite 2 years now as a coordinator, but I've been working with the supplemental instruction program to various degrees for about the last almost 4 years now. So right when I was really picking up into it was when we started to see that huge growth, where we jumped from having 18 SI leaders up to the currently now close to 55 with 60 plus sections covered. And that when we started doing that, I was noticing a lot of things that, at some point you kind of hit this ceiling where what you're doing is just not quite enough for the group that you have, and you have to sort of regroup to make sure that everything's covered, everyone's accounted for. And we sort of saw that ceiling when we went from the 18 up to, various degrees up to the 50. So I wanted to talk about some of the changes that we made that were really helpful for us. So if other, colleges or institutions are about to see a shift like that, or, maybe you're about to get grant funding or, seeing that increase, these may be some things that you could look at. One of the things, and Dr. Mack mentioned this a little bit, but this is sort of our organization chart that we have just under the SI branch. And this has increased on all fronts since we increased the program. We have the 2 graduate assistants. We do currently have 5 mentors, which would make it about a 10-to-1 ratio of mentors for SI leaders now. And then we have 52 SI leaders. In our program, we also allow mentors to be SI leaders currently, so they have the option of doing more full-time of mentoring or doing a little bit of both, so we do have a mix of that. With the organization, Dr. Mack handles our funding and budgeting, so we really have a big split with the duties in order to make it all work really well with the big program. And then administrative tasks, we have a huge split between me and then the GAs and mentors. I think one of the more unique features about ours is that the GAs and mentors really do a lot of that work, and they really dig deep into the program, whereas with a smaller program, it would have been more manageable for just me to, trickle all of that down. Same with the supervising and mentoring, as well as day-to-day operations. I'll go a bit more in depth later, but our mentors and supervisors, they really help coordinate the program. Sometimes I even refer to them as our 2 GAs, or like another coordinator position almost at times, because they really do as far as just the management, tracking, goal setting, they dig deep into all of that for the program. And then our research assistant works mostly with Dr. Mack, so she can help with more of the mathematical and statistical end of it to get to our reports, and he helps us with more of the back-end stuff like room reservations and things like that. For the goals, when we started increasing, and these are still some of the things that I like to look at and make sure that we're doing with the larger program, is really efficient day-to-day administration management. There's always some sort of management, but really keeping the key on efficient is something that we continually work towards to make sure the best person is on the best job at all times. Also delegation of duties and having people train for the different tasks that we have. And also very strong verbal and written communication. And I'll talk about our training, but something that I like to do is make sure that all of our staff are trained really, really well up front. And then that way, throughout the semesters and years that we're with us, we can kind of turn them loose and have less supervision later. And that's really helped us over the last couple of years as we've grown as well. So for our training, and this is just more of a breakdown of how we've been doing it for the last couple of years since we've grown. We have a 2-day training prior to the start of every semester. I think a lot of schools have something of a similar degree where there's some sort of upfront training and then continue later. Ours is very in-depth. They do have the full 16 hours of training, if not more. And we do make that mandatory, so even our most experienced SI leaders are required to come to the 16-hour training every semester. We also have an hour follow-up training / weekly meeting, and we do that throughout the entire semester. This has really helped us as well. We did do this before when we were smaller, and as we grew, we kind of came to a decision where we keep this, but it's a lot of work, or we toss it for something else. But we decided to keep this, and I'm actually really glad that we did. It is, when you think about it, it's more work now. We normally split them, so if we have between 50 and 60, we'll split them into groups of 12 to 15 for their weekly meetings, because at that point, logistically, you cannot physically get that many people in a room more than once a semester, we found. So when we split it, the ceiling normally hits at about 17, where we can't get that many people in one place at once. So what we'll end up doing with this is we have 4 weekly meetings that we split all of our SI leaders in, and then we also have a weekly mentor meetings, which is a little bit later. So that's 5 meetings a week, which is a lot, but something that we do a little bit differently is our GAs and mentors actually run these meetings for me for the most part. I train them for the weekly meetings as if I'm never going to be there. And then for the most part, about 90% of the time, fortunately, I'm able to go and sit in on the meetings and I'll make notes and jump in. But the times where I can't go, then they're completely trained to do that on their own. So that's been a significant help for us and has really helped with communication for the program and keeping everyone up to date.
I'm just wondering, your SI leaders, many of them are self-students themselves,
Yes.
right? How does that work with being able to schedule those weekly meetings due to the hodgepodge of what their schedules might be?
This is where we.
Question.
This is a great question, because when we were small, we were able to find a day and a time when everybody was available and we had one meeting. As the group has gotten larger and the life has gotten more complicated, I have found we had to do a doodle. Thank you for doodle. I don't know if you're familiar with use it all, but it is the best thing. They have to do a doodle, and then we have to work the doodle in a way to find the 4 meetings, because their schedules are all, and they have all the responsibilities, they have research, they have all kinds of other things that they're involved. Some of them are peer tutors as well, so all of those things factor in. So Doodle has been a blessing for us.
Absolutely. Yeah, we use the Doodle every semester. We'll normally have them before they enter the term, so between hiring and training, they're all required to fill out the doodle, and then just prior to training, we'll go into the doodle and try to fit into the 4 meetings. We do have to be flexible with that a little bit on our end, because I pretty much have to make sure that I'm available, for any time slot during the day until the meetings are set. So my schedule's a little bit hairy until they're all set up, because I don't like there to ever be a meeting that I can never attend, for example. Like this semester we have an 8 a.m. meeting, we have one at 1:30, different days, different times. But we've never had to go more than 4 meetings. Sometimes we'll get lucky and we'll squeeze everyone into 3. But even at that point, I find that with so many people and all the questions and discussions that we have, if we go over 20 in one meeting anyway, you start to find other logistical problems with that. Like, we just can't fit everyone's questions in. So the 4 is really that good balance point for us with as many as we have. I also have a weekly email update that I send them. So they sort of get hit with 3 routes of communication throughout the week, and that's always directly from me. So if it does happen to be a week where I can't attend their weekly meeting, they're at least hearing from me once a week and hearing what's going on with SARP and the program. And between those 2, we'll do a continued training topic. So we try to keep that training in their minds all semester. One week might be like study skills themed, the next week might be classroom management, so that varies by week. We do weekly observation trends, so during our mentor meeting, we'll come together and be like, well, a lot of people seem to be having trouble closing their sessions on time. Let's bring that up in the meeting and talk with everyone about that. So we'll do the weekly observation trends. We always have a discussion. So we open it up to every person. We ask that every person says at least something, whether that's just their, attendance for the week and saying everything's fine, or if something did happen to them that week that they want to staff with us, then we staff it as a whole group during that time. And then we also bring up any out of the ordinary deadlines or things coming up that they have to do, so that they'll get those multiple reminders. So between the weekly meeting and the email, we hit all those points during that. And then also with SI mentoring, they share the responsibility of seeing all of the SI leaders. Our graduate assistants also see the SI leaders. Like I said, the mentors are about 10 to 1 right now, but if you include the GAs, it ends up being about 8 to 1 or 9 to 1 for ratio. We try to see them as much as we possibly can with that. We do have some scheduling conflicts with that. But normally they'll normally get about 4 observations per semester, or every other to every 3rd week. But our newest SI leaders, we see a little bit more than that and try to get a couple on the front end of the semester for continuing training. They also have that weekly meeting for follow-up. Now that the staff is bigger, that's normally a 2-hour meeting as opposed to a 1-hour meeting, so that was a change that we eventually had to make. So if you're increasing that staff up, that may be one of the things that you may want to look at, is just the meeting sizes. But we found the 2-hour meeting works really well, and we're able to staff everyone's cases and review everyone's observations, go over the agendas, and that's a good time frame now for us. We also do thorough SI mentor training, so they have a bit of a lengthy training as well. And we also do shadowing for the mentors before they become a full mentor. So they'll go, we do like doubles where we'll have 2 mentors go, our most senior mentor with our newer mentors to observe, and then they slowly are weaned off that into their own observations. Also GA follow-up daily. I almost see them as secondary coordinators. So that's how we talk, and that's how we, our SI leaders see them as their supervisor, which has been really helpful for us with the larger program. And then, again, they also assist with those meetings. So if it is a week where I have something else, because I happen to coordinate a couple of other programs, so there will be some weeks where our summer bridge program's about to take off, so that's, my whole week, for example. I can back off of the program a little bit, and then they're still able to manage that. So that's all been really helpful for us.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Interrupting you, I apologize.
You're good.
I'm curious about, not done SI at my institution, but it seems that when you're working with peer tutors, one of the things that can be a difficulty we find for just student tutors that we do have is that lack of continuity, because there's so much attrition with student workers because they graduate or they transfer or whatever, they're doing. So how do you, ensure that you're having consistent service across terms in your SI program?
We normally don't have too many. I mean, I'll go into our training a little bit more, and I think that's really the strongest point that helps us out a lot, is that when we train them in a really strong way in the beginning of the semester, it doesn't take them as long to adapt. So a couple of months in, I'm normally very comfortable with all of the staff. There's always going to be, especially with 50 plus, there's always going to be that one person that really is going to struggle for a while. And we do see that, but with the training, we find that they settle in fairly quickly. Do you find that it's pretty similar, Dr. Mack?
Yeah, I think you're referring more of leaving the program for other reasons. Maybe they graduate or
their life situation has changed, they decided they're not going to work or whatever.
One thing is, we typically try to hire juniors, we hire some seniors as well, but we try to avoid someone who's going to graduate that semester, only because they're not going to. I know that there are programs that stay away from freshmen because they haven't been, but I would not discount a freshman that's highly motivated and is their second semester and wants to be an SI leader. I would give them the chance to interview and see what that person brings. Because I have had excellent SI leaders who came the second semester as freshmen and stayed and became mentors and left and stayed in the program, retained, and had been excellent. So you have to kind of see who the person is, their level of commitment, engage that during the interview, and tell them during the interview that the expectation is that they would stay. So kind of put that in their mind.
Yeah, we'll kind of screen during the interviews too. If it looks like they're really high risk, like for example, in our school, there's a lot of, especially with all the engineering classes we added, they'll have internship opportunities. So when they're nearing certain classes or benchmarks in their program, we'll talk with them beforehand and make sure they're still going to be a good fit, so that we won't have, students leaving a bit too early.
Right. With the engineering students, we know that that is a priority. If they do get an internship, they're going to go for it, because doing that, their future job will depend on that. But that is, what's very special. But with all the other science students, being SI leaders is a big plus, because if they're chemistry SI leaders, it's a big review for their MCAT or their dental exam. So they see that as a big plus. So, I think motivated them to stay in the program, giving them certain incentives once they're in, making them fit with the rest of the group and feel that this is a great job to stay in. Talking about the advantages of a job on campus, that you don't have to drive to Disney to work, far away from where they. So, thank you.
As we were sort of getting through the evolution of the smaller to the larger program, I just wanted to notice some of the things that ended up helping us for sort of quick tips if you're approaching something like that. We did try to make sure as much as we could to increase the number of mentors and GAs as the number of SI leaders increased. The times when we had fewer mentors, for example, and we've been lucky with graduate assistants that we've always, kept that up to par. But with less mentors, we do find that it, kind of goes downhill rather quickly, that if they're not being seen, a certain amount of times, we will have to have that more corrective training that we try to prevent with all the, upfront training. So whenever we sort of hit that next mark where we hire another 5 SI leaders than we had the previous semester, or another 10, as much as we can, I try to make sure that our mentors are staying up to those numbers. And I even find, I've seen some schools where they have even more mentors or maybe a coordinator who's able to do a lot of observations, which unfortunately I'm not. Where they'll have someone seeing them every week or every 2 weeks, and we're not quite up there. But we find that as long as we have enough for them to be seen 3 or 4 times per semester, again, a little bit more if they're brand new SI leaders, that's enough for them to keep up to par and be able to have a good SI model and a good evaluation at the end of the semester. With our training, this is something we've played with for a while, and we still are, but we've shifted more into a conference-style training in order to accommodate all of our SI leaders. I do have a little bit more on this later, but we split at times during the trainings. We'll have the 2 full days. We split them a couple of different ways throughout the training. The SI basics, along with our policies and procedures, will keep them together, but about 50% of the time they're actually split. During one split, we split them by subject area. So we'll split our sciences off from our engineering, math. Normally we'll have 4 to 5 split groups, and then they'll sort of regroup with the training about how that applies to their subject matter. So, they all have the same topics to hit, but it's more for that specific population. So the way our science or our biology people, for example, go about problem solving is not going to be the same way as our calculus people go about problem solving. So now that we have this many, one of the advantages is I can get our 6 math people in a room together and just talk about how can we do SI with math, while my biology people are how can we do SI with biology. And that helps them to really get deeper into the aspects of SI. And that buy-in for SI is kind of like you're saying with your new SI leaders. Sometimes I feel like they have to get that buy-in for the SI model. Like, we're working so hard to redirect, but, is this really helping? How am I going to use this model with my subject? And that's really helpful for that. We also split them by new versus returnee. So we sort of have mentoring pairs during our training. So we have several breakouts where they'll sort of mentor each other on different topics. And the third section where they are split off, and we'll have our returning SI leaders work on their previous goal from the semester prior. So they're sort of deepening their knowledge of SI, while the newer SI leaders, we use that for a Q&A for them to sort of catch up on anything that they didn't really understand the previous couple of days of training, and we'll normally save that to the end. And that's been enormously helpful for us. Increasing communication systems, the email, weekly follow-ups. I didn't start the weekly updates until we got really large. I found that with a smaller program, I'd run into them more, they were around more. I was always in their meetings because there was only 1 or 2 meetings. Whereas now, I try not to ever feel like they don't know me. Even though, we have a huge program, I also run a couple of other programs. I want them to know that if something happens to them in session and they're not comfortable or they really need help, that they can walk right into my office anytime. So having that little bit of extra communication is helpful. Also, we mentioned the doodle earlier. Technology is my best friend in many ways. We use SurveyMonkey and Qualtrics, which are both survey devices, to collect information. I use this with our professors a lot, so at the end, sometimes we'll do evaluations, like how was SI this semester, do you have any recommendations? Sometimes this is sending it to our SI leaders or to all of our student staff to collect information from them. So that's super helpful. The Doodle is the scheduler device that we normally use, so we schedule our weekly meetings with that. We also use it for some of our smaller events to collect or maybe there's a special training. Anything that we do, we always use the Doodle for that, which is really helpful. Sometimes we do need that extra push on a person on the other end to really work out the finer details of it, but this does a lot of the work for us. And then in addition to that, we use a Google site. This is basically a Google product where you can sort of create your own, I call it like a mini web page. You don't like purchase your own website name, but it's basically under Google. And if you Google sites, that's where you can get the instructions for how to make one of these. We kind of used it as a pilot several years ago. One of our SI leaders, I think, or actually one of our SI mentors found this and thought it might be a good idea. And this has worked so well for us. So we have the Google site, and on the bar over to your left, what we'll do is we'll actually have sub-sites for each of our subjects and SI leaders. So we'll have a section for biology, for chemistry, for engineering, etc. And underneath that, each one of our SI leaders will have their own page. So each semester, it normally takes maybe an hour or two to update it. We'll pull all the stuff down from the semester prior, and we'll archive it in our shared files in the office. And then it'll be brand new every semester because it does have a cap on information that you can upload to it. So we'll add everyone's name over there, and then we turn each page over to the SI leader for them to do with whatever they would like. We have implemented a Google Site Challenge where in their meetings we'll give them 1 week to upload whatever they can that's SI related, study skills, things like that that'll help their class. And then we have a first, second, and third place Google Site winner the next week, so they win a prize for that. We've had some really creative work done, and it gets them used to using technology. Some of them are awesome. I have computer science SI leaders, and they're all over it. But I have our biology SI, some of the other subjects where they are not as familiar with it, so we try to sort of force them into it at first, but then it ends up working really well. This is one of our samples. This is actually one of our computer science SI leaders. He went in and did some sort of extras where he changed the background and inserted some images and stuff like that. So he did a really great job. But if they're not as tech savvy, they can also go in and just do the basics to post the schedule and stuff like that. And that was a way that we could really monitor that too, but still give them that freedom. So for planning and trading, I pretty much talked about most of this. But I have SI leader face sheets, so I have a big book of their pictures, their information, the sort of top 10 things that we look for their SI cycle, and I keep that all in one section to just keep up with all the SI leaders. So once you hit 55, and you have 25 new ones in one semester, you're, getting confused, and, I have other staff at sometimes a year, like I have peer mentors that I supervise. So when you have 75 people and someone walks in your door, I can have that page to flip to, which is nice. We also do goal tracking, and then job duties tracking, which is the points. I did talk about training a bit earlier, so I'll skip over some of that. But the big thing here is the conference style that's really helped us, and a lot of training up front. And then I did want to talk a little bit about our point system, which is sort of a position management system that's helped us. This is sort of on the more back end, not necessarily SI related, but more like job duties. So this, instead of, let's say they don't turn their timesheet in, instead of me calling them and pestering them or having to make my GAs do that or anything like that, we sort of hold them accountable to what we call the point system, where if they, for example, forget a deadline, they would, for example, get a point for it. So points are not, I tell them, it's not a basketball game, you don't want points. But what we do here is we'll just track their deadlines throughout the semester. Since it's objective, they actually like it. It was tough to implement at first because it was a bit hard to understand. But once they got used to it, they actually really liked it, and they were really comfortable because they felt like everyone was even, and everyone got a fair shot. Some things that we do here, if they start accumulating points, so for example, maybe they turn their timesheet in late, and then they showed up to a meeting late, they'll get upwards in points. They start with things like email notifications and warnings. If it gets really bad, we'll start with in-person meetings. But that sort of takes away the nagging. They'll just get more points if they, if more things happen. And it's really made, even though it's a little bit more work up front to track it, I found that it's made it really, really easy to manage everyone. And when we implemented this, our rate of errors for their job duties completely dropped. They did so much better when they had this. And then on the other end, we also do retractions. So for example, they can attend a learning skills consultation, which is one of our one-on-one appointments, and they get negative points. Or they can go see an SI leader and observe them and do a feedback form, and they can get negative points for that too. So if they're in the danger range, then that's something that they can do to redeem themselves. Or some of our SI leaders are just overachievers and they'll get 2 points, and I'm like, don't worry, it's not a lot of points, you're fine. And they're like, no, I need to go see someone. So it's actually nice with that too, because you see very quickly who your above and beyond students are, which may be a good mentor someday. So it's really a nice system that we've been able to incorporate here. Takes a lot less work off of us. They're comfortable with it because they feel like everyone has equal footing. They erase every semester, so if they start a new semester, they're blank slate again. And then, really it's been great for us all around. We have the 0 points award to our overachievers. They get a couple of points, they can retract into 0, and then at the end of the semester, they can get a small award for that. So it's been a really good system all around. It's really helped with everything with the larger program. And just to wrap up, I'll quickly show you, and this is in here for you guys, and we'll post this, but this is just what our sample spreadsheet looks like. So this is how we track it, and then the Excel file. So this would be one person, for example, that we would track through the weeks. And then at the end of the semester, if they get points, we'll talk to them in their, throughout the semester, but we go over this in their evaluations as well. So that's been really helpful. And we can basically, again, I've covered most of this, but the summary of this slide is more work up front and less work later. So we're doing a lot of prevention, so we don't have to do a lot of correction during the semester.
I have to say that this has worked so well that we have started implementing it in the tutoring program as well, and with the student assistants, because it is positive. You don't have to nag them every time, and they feel they're accountable, and they know what the expectation is up front. So it's been a good system, and like Kristen said, it took time to refine it to what it is right now. But
it's had to evolve a lot. From the start, it was really rough, and some things weren't worth as much points as others, and we had to really push that out and change it for probably a couple of years. We were making changes, but over the last few years since it's been there, we haven't had to make a lot of changes, and it's just run so smoothly that it was so worth putting this in place.
But we have all these materials that I think Jennifer mentioned a website that she can put it on, or we can collect I think we have your contacts.
I think it's in the folder,
in
all
the
everybody's
folder,
contact things.
And we can send it out and put it on a
Are you also going to be at the lunch table?
We will be there.
Can I ask one question? How you assess participation in SIs? Is it based on attendance at a certain number of sessions, or is it just attendance of one session?
For the
Or when you're doing the tracking of student success?
Particularly with that slide that said SI impacts, all that data. I have the same question. How many times do they have to do that?
The impact, when we say regular attendance, we look at either 3 or more.
Correct.
3 or more.
We also look at 4 or more, 5 or more, but for this data, 3 or more. So I hope that this has been helpful. I wish there were more time for any question or any feedback that you have, any thoughts or any advice that you can, I don't know if you have any anything to share about your programs, but thank you very much for, and we'll be at lunch, and if you want to, if you have any questions.
Thank you.
I